listening to Tapped In, Buncombe County's half hour to empower on WRES 100.7 FM in Asheville. Listen up and get tapped into local important resources, information, and topics. Okay, it's time to get tapped in. Hello, hello, hello. And if you hear my voice, know that it is time to get tapped in. I am one of your hosts, ZaKiya Rogers.
And I'm Leonard Jones.
Leonard and I come to you from the Communications and Public Engagement Department of Buncombe County, where we wear capes. Leonard, who do we have with us today?
Today we have Miss Regina Herring from Justice Services, and she is the Justice Service Department Director. Welcome, Regina.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us, being here with us. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about you?
Okay, I am a Florida native from the east coast of Florida. I'm born and raised in Delray Beach, Palm Beach County.
Okay.
And my career started there. I'm a family girl. I have 3 kids, 5 grands. And I've been in the criminal justice, real estate, housing industry most of my career.
Well, wow. Thank you so much for choosing to come to Asheville or Buncombe County in general to give us some of your expertise. Now, you got here right before the storm, so you're getting ready to come up on your year anniversary.
I am.
Tell us about your first week.
Wow. Eventful, I can say. I got here starting September 20th, and hurricanes are, I can almost say it's like the norm. We expect some sort of storm or tropical storm or hurricane each year, somewhere along our Florida coast. Did not expect it here in the mountains at all, so it was I don't know if it's just in shock. And so I started on the 20th that Monday, and Friday, here comes Hurricane Helene.
Yeah.
So that was my wake-up call that hurricanes just follow me no matter where I go. That's what I thought.
So you brought tropical storm.
That's what they want to say, but I'm not going over that. But it did come here.
Some people bring the thunder. You just brought the whole storm.
Oh, I could bring the thunder in the room. That wasn't me.
Well, thank you so much. You do our Justice Service Department, in which we know there are so many concerns around the justice system here. So let's jump right into it. We talk about everybody's been hearing about the pretrial support service program. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that. Well,
it's really a program that's designed to be a support service to the courts. It's a program where individuals at the front end of the system, once you get arrested, you appear before a judicial officer, and they determine whether or not you are detained or whether or not they release you into the community. Mm-hmm. If they decide that you're going to be released in the community, there's an option. They could post a bond, or what we've done with pretrial support services is that we revise our criteria so that we can serve those lower risk individuals that can be released back into the community, and we can link them to services. Because really, to flood the jails or detention centers with low risk, high needs individuals, it's not our best option. And we wind up seeing there's a lot of inequities in that. So what we've designed is an opportunity in which the courts can utilize our services to help those individuals, link them to services, hopefully get them connected back into their community, and we can reduce some of that recidivism and that spiraling and circling and back into the system. So that's kind of the goal of that program, because it's really, they're innocent until proven guilty. They haven't been they have been charged, but they have not been found guilty. So really, they still have liberties. And I think really the system should and I hopefully does respect that. So when you're looking at that pretrial, what we do is do an assessment for the court to get an idea of who's before them. We do a background screening. We do an assessment, which is a validated risk assessment to determine based on their past criminal history or their past failure to appear, whether or not they'll appear in court. It's not to say we don't know who's going to reoffend, but the likelihood of them is based on this validation tool. So our goal really is to protect the public, to ensure that we're not releasing folks who are a threat or risk of danger to the public, and also to ensure people return to court. And so the less amount of time you keep a person incarcerated, the most likely they're going to return to court.
And during your during this program, are you all collecting data on why people say they do not return to court, or what keeps them from coming back? Because I would think that would be very high, that if they spent a lot of time locked up before they got, a pretrial release.
We don't do, I guess, a survey to that extent, but what we do in our questionnaire and assessment, and then our case management piece, we do find that many of them lack some of the essential needs, such as transportation. Many of them don't have the resources. So we're trying to identify those supports that we can provide. So we do provide bus passes to help people return to court. We do provide linkages to services. Many folks we find in the system have mental health and substance use issues. So when people are battling those types of addictions and conditions, it's challenging for them in the community. So it's one of the things that we're trying to do is work in partnership with our community-based organizations to be able to provide those levels of support, which is a challenge because we're challenged with resources and funding ourselves.
Okay, so I know you mentioned connecting people with services, and those was like the example of services that you try to connect people that may find themselves in the situation. Okay.
Yes.
So we also got another program called Diversion and Reentry Services at JRC. Can you tell us a little bit more about that program?
Well, the JRC was created as a drop-in center for individuals who are justice involved. That's anyone who's had a involvement with the courts, criminal justice system. Because typically people who have gone through the system have struggles. Their housing stability is an issue because of their past. We have challenges getting housing because of their past. They have troubles retaining or maintaining employment. So a lot of those problems, and people who are in the system, we have both what we call our jail diversion and we have our diversion programs that are served out of our JRC. And that's in the courthouse on the 14th floor. But what we do with those programs is for those lower risk individuals, as we're saying, someone who's a first time misdemeanor or who are dealing with drug addictions, we work with the district attorney to look at those cases, and those individuals that meet those criteria, we want to give them an option to either plea out and get their case dismissed. But there's conditions to that. We want them to get treatment. We want them to do volunteer services or something to earn that. And hopefully, we can work with Pisco Legal to kind of do its function. So if there's a need to get that record squashed, they could do that, and that would eliminate some of those barriers that they often encounter. And then we have our reentry and community reentry, and then the reentry program. That's those who are in the detention center coming back into the community. Because one of the things I always say, people who go in the system, they're a family. People who go into prison, they come back, they family. Where do they come back to? They come back home. And to think that they are these foreigners and these aliens, they're our family in most instances. And I think we have to kind of reshape how we see folks. And I always say, but for the grace of God, go I. I mean, good Lord, if anybody knew,
I mean, we're all one bad situation from being in any trouble. Like, you may drop your phone and bend down and pick it up and driving, and anything can happen. So my thing is, we have to have more grace with folks coming back in, and just, I think so often we just forget that people sometimes do things out of desperation. So there are so many layers to why things happen, and that we need to look at people, at them as a person, and not them as a number or the next person who committed a crime.
Exactly.
Can I ask another quick question? Just doing a part of our communication things. I know I said JRC. Can you tell us what the JRC stands for and a little bit about it?
It's Justice Resource Center. It's basically a place in which people who have been involved in the system come for resources, to get services, to get linked to services.
Yes.
So that's basically what it is. And we have a number of services that operate within that center.
And where is it located?
It's at the courthouse, 60 Court
Plaza.
on the 14th floor.
14th floor. Okay.
And that's in the old part. Right?
It's on the old Porter
Yes.
courthouse.
Yeah. Because that's not the part where you take the elevator to 13 and you walk up the stairs.
Yeah.
Is it?
Well,
It is?
no, you can take the gold elevators up to. I think you take it up to 4. I'm not sure how those elevators go. I usually go 8 and then go over and go up to 14. But I think it goes up to. I think you can take the gold elevators all the way up to 14.
Okay.
I think those.
Yeah.
But if you do go the new part and cross over, and then you got to. That's the
crossover.
Yes. That's the get lost
it's in the
section.
old
Yeah.
original part.
Yes.
Old original courthouse.
So you all remember that you go into the new part, you walk through the stair area, or you can take the gold elevators in the new part, and you go all the way up, and then you can cross over through the older part of the.
Yeah, it's best to go to the older part, to the back gold elevators, and go all the way up to 14.
Yes.
When you try to go to the new part over to the old part, then you got all those elevators.
Yes. Yeah, it is a lot. The older courthouse is very pretty as well.
It's a gorgeous facility.
Yes, and so for our listeners, they don't have to be actively in a case with Justice Services. Say somebody had a case maybe 10 years ago and they're still finding some issues. Are they able to come to the Justice Resource Center?
We do offer services to individuals who are having challenges. But I want to be upfront with people because our resources are short. We really try to help those individuals who are fresh out of the system, because we really want to get them stabilized and into back into the community. But we do help anyone who comes in who's justice involved.
Okay.
What about family support services at the Family Justice Center?
Well, that's the Family Justice Center really focuses on our survivor services, our domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking support services. But what I'm hoping we'd be able to do is really expand that to include, it really just be about family, because all of those individuals, many of them have some connection to family and need, beyond their treatment, maybe other family supports.
Yeah.
And so the goal is to really provide comprehensive support services for families and children.
And so how do you have any data on the number of people you all are serving each year, or are we still in the beginning process of that?
Well, I'm doing a number of assessments. When I first came on, that was pre-trial, was one of the first reviews that I needed to do, and did some restructuring. I'm also looking at all of my other divisions as we look at, the Family Justice Center and our Justice Resource Center and the programs up under that. We have built a strong collaborative the county has in these programs, and we really want to be able to look at how do we continue that, sustain that, because some of our programs are funded via grant. And so the goal is, it's great to get a grant, but how do we, all the good work you do in a grant, now it goes away because the grant goes away.
Yeah.
And
so how can you sustain the work after the grant is gone?
And so right now we have our community health prevention CPRB. It's the Community Partner Public Health to Violence, Response to Violence. And so, y'all forgive me for these acronyms.
Yes.
I am trying to get used to it.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, that is a grant initiative, and that is a strong community collaborative. With My Daddy Taught Me, Spark. They're all working collaborative, and I was just at an event where they had, I think it's, I don't know, well over 50 to 75 kids or more in the event. And it's really the community addressing how do we deal with violence. Now, violence occurs, and we just had some shootings occur. But that doesn't mean you stop the work.
No.
It doesn't mean the work isn't working. It just means there's more work to be done.
Yes.
And so those types of initiatives we've got to get ahead of instead of waiting until now to see how do we sustain that. And so that's one of the things that I've beginning to have assembled to talk about, you know, how we're going to sustain this work.
I think one of the things is community connection. How are you how can the community get involved with this program? Any of these programs?
Well, I haven't talked to the one that I really want to get them involved in. I might as well go into that right now. It's talking about our Just Home. And that's a housing initiative. That's a loan program actually that is through the MacArthur Foundation, and the goal is to bridge the gap for individuals who've been involved in the justice system with home insecurities, because you find people who coming out of the system, as we said, are having troubles getting housing because there's so many restrictions as in housing units of who can be in housing and who they can lease to and who they will lease to. So you kind of put people in a box where they can only turn, but they can't even hardly make any moves. So this initiative is designed for the community, to bring the community together and to come up with what type of housing do we need here in Buncombe County that to address these individuals, because we can always, like I said, we're good at pointing the fingers and they're this and they're that, but they are here. They're in our community, and if we want our community to be better, we're going to have to look at everybody, and we're going to have to engage, and we're going to have to accept we all make mistakes. We're, like you said, I wouldn't be sitting in this chair had some of the things I'd done been brought to light. Now they say everything don't come to light, but I'm not.
And my excuse would be that was 1996.
You know, hello. I'm not the person I was. But I think that's the thing. The whole point is we need the community, and what we're doing with this initiative is we're creating what we call an advisory group, and we're wanting the voices of people most impacted with these housing insecurities. So people who've been in the system, individuals who have experienced homelessness, they know the plight. I can tell you what I think it's like, but I've never walked in those shoes. So I call myself, although I'm not, but I think I am in some regards, we're gatekeepers. We tend to keep things as it's always been. This program allows us to think a little bit outside of how we normally operate, engage the community voices to share with us what that would look like, what those needs are, and then we come up with a plan and present it to the MacArthur Foundation to say this is what Buncombe County has come up with. With the voices of those most impacted, our systems player all come together and come up with a plan of what that looks like. And we can get up to $5 million in loan funding for us to implement some type of housing initiative. But that's the planning phase, and the planning phase has to engage the community.
So how that advisory board, is that something that's on the horizon, searching out applicants to be, or participants to be a part of this process, or is that something ongoing right now?
We're in the throes of it right now.
Okay.
So that's why we're sitting on this here, this platform right now, because I really want to get it out. And I don't, and it's not, I want to say but I'm sort of leading the process,
Mm-hmm.
and we have we're engaging local consultants to help us
Mm-hmm.
with this. But to me, it's important that we hear from the people and not your people who always in these meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think we have to think a little bit outside of that.
Yeah.
You know, because what I know, because I'm one who say it quick. I did the first one. Yeah, the same old people.
Yeah. Let's get
You
some
know?
names we haven't heard of. You know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
and I'm
so
not.
important.
And the reality of it is, I don't know anybody, so I wouldn't know what's a familiar name or not.
So how do, if listeners out there that may be interested, so how do they get in contact or be a part of this process?
Well, right now we are defining that a little bit more, and once we do, I'll come back. I'll send the information for you all to broadcast the process, and because it's not going to be a huge group, but we want to be able to go out, and the goal is is that we'll go out in the community and we'll bring meetings to the people. We don't want, oftentimes we tell people to come to the community, come to the courthouse, and come to the government. Nobody want to come.
Yeah.
I mean,
gotta meet people where they are.
Yeah.
I think
And there's so much anxiety around it, and
it's
and
easier
people
for us to come to them.
And I think people will speak more freely if they're in their environment.
Yeah.
When you're in, like, say if you're having a meeting and you're in the courthouse, I don't think you're gonna want to talk about the things that you've done in the courthouse.
It's not a welcoming, environment. I have trauma from that.
I know,
Many
I
people.
know.
I mean, whether it's their having to have to take their child, having to have to see a family member go through that experience. And whether it's not even just criminal, it could be, DCF, any types of things like that.
Yeah.
It's not a happy place.
No.
So that's the difference.
It's not always peaches.
Right.
And so I think as a person who has grown up in this community and who have known a lot of people, so many folks come to my mind that would benefit from lending their voice to this. And so when we talk about community connection, one thing I learned when I was a foster care social worker was that most people need to have at least 5 people, whether it's family or people or in their village, that they can have connection with, that if anything happens, that they can call that person. And so we're working with folks who don't have those 5 connections as adults. And so your program is teaching them so many just life skills. So how are you all looking at mental health and family health and things of that nature?
Well, we touch on that through our case management and case linkage services to community-based organizations. But one of the things that I found and that we're working on is many of these folks with mental health and substance use issues, jail isn't the option. And unfortunately, we're pushed to where the system becomes their treatment facility.
It becomes a babysitter.
It's not even treatment. They don't even get treatment. It's just a holding place for them to hopefully that they would dry out, or I don't know if they expect miraculously they're gonna come back to their cells or whatever without addressing those issues. But I think where we're acknowledging now is a lot of those folks need other support. And so we're looking at, on the front end of the system, how do we come up with alternatives to detaining those people, holding them into a jail cell by virtue of trespassing or they urinated in public. But we all know those are violations. But are those violations that rise to the standard of needing to be incarcerated by virtue of their condition?
But I have also worked with unhoused folks who were unhoused, and I remember having men tell me when it got too cold that they would do small crimes because they were going to be locked up. And so I think that's another area where we're losing the reality of what's happening with our communities, that we have so many folks who are unhoused, that to get warm and to get those meals, they are doing these
Well,
things.
they're kind of forced into those situations. And a lot of people, because of their situation, they're not suitable candidates for shelters, because shelters they house a variety of folks, and some of those folks can be a challenge, but we have to realize we are a melting pot of folks, and we have to figure out, and I don't say we have all the answers, I have the answers, but collectively, I think as a community, we have to think outside of the box of how we normally handle these. That's where I think the just home strategies and the conversations will come out of, because whether we build something for whatever one population, I'm hopeful that the communications and the conversations that come out of it will give us ideas for other options. So that maybe we don't do it with this pot of money, maybe we work at some, utilize some other resources, we can think outside the box, but we have options, and we have options from the people most impacted, because then it's more likelihood it's gonna be a more successful implementation opposed to us just telling you what you need and what will work. Because often that don't work.
Yeah, and then you think about, because we look at our folks who are in the criminal justice system, and we think about, you know, how can anyone walk through this world daily and not have some type of emotional or mental services that they need, just out in public and in the world. And then we have to think about what all these folks are dealing with personally in their family, and those traumas and all those things. So it's a lot of layers, and I just want to say I thank you all so much for looking at our communities and looking at the whole person, and actually going in and saying we want to talk to those who know the experience. I don't want to read a book or read somebody else's idea. I want to see what it is. So I thank you all so much for doing that.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I think it's important, and I think you raised up one point to your point is we all, you know, I mean, we're looking at a certain population, but I always go back to, you know, when you point that finger, you've got four more coming back at you, and we all deal with something. And I think if we would be, like you said, Leonard, more humane and realistic, that, and as you said, just one step away from making a wrong decision can land you anywhere within the system. I think if we start looking a little bit more along those lines and see the humanity in folks, I think we could solve a lot of problems. And stop saying it's an us against them or they. It's a we.
Yeah.
Well, we are out of town, and I'm going to give you a moment to tell our community something that you feel that you missed, or something you just want them to know.
Well, I think Justice Services, our department, is here to help you. Buncombe County, I think holistically, is centered on serving community at the highest level and at the best level. We are committed to helping our community and also engaging the voices of our community. I'm very, very strong in my position of hearing from folks on what's best.
And I'll just piggyback on that idea of serving our community. So I just want to remind the listeners out there, the way you can serve our community is apply for some board and commissions today at Buncombe County. We've been talking about justice services, but there are plenty of other boards that's accepting applications. We actually got some that's connected with the department around Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. We also have the Justice Resource Advisory Council. So if this is kind of the area that you got a passion for, along with many others, just please go visit us and learn more information at www.buncombecounty.nc.gov/687 boards and commissions. But you always can go to buncombenc.gov to find out where you can get resources, but also how you can participate in our community.
And with that being said, I'm going to close us up with we are always talking about how we are one Buncombe, how we are one human race. We are one family. However, when someone gets in a situation, we often look away from them. When a florist is tending to his garden and a rose does not bloom, he doesn't take that rose bush and put it in the dark for punishment. He kneels down and see what is his rose bush needing. Is it needing more light? Is the soil not right? What is my rose bush needing? I think if we looked at each other as flowers in one garden, and sometimes some flowers need a little extra love, and if we treat each other like that, I think we would see the beauty that we all have, and that we all can bloom in our own ways. And it may take a little time, and it may take a little extra soil and tilling and water and sun, but eventually when we support each other, we all bloom. And we are one Buncombe, and you have been tapped in.